Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Truth Table. I'm Paul Everton, the host here, and it's Sunday, February 16th, 2025. And for the second time, I have Selgovae Pecht on as my guest. Here's a picture of him here. Can you guess which one is him? He's in there somewhere. He's camouflaged. So, yes, he's a Canadian Armed Forces prepared to die for his brothers and sisters and Canadian family. So for that alone, I admire him absolutely. And today, our show is probably going to be filled with a million different things that you might want to write down. So don't worry about pausing and writing things down because a lot of these things that we're going to talk about have to do with the court system, the flag, the removal of the flag. I guess we can start right with the flag. So you have noticed courtrooms without the flag?
Myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a couple of years ago, I started canvassing around people that I knew in the country and just started saying, "What's the status in your courtrooms?" And people were coming back consistently saying the flag's missing. Now there are some exceptions. So, Saskatchewan places both flags in the courtroom, but the Canadian flag is not placed in a legislative position of honor, and this is important because it's a theater of representation. In two locations, I can confirm in Ontario, Simcoe and Parry Sound, both cross the flags behind the judge's chair, and this as well is very sneaky. There's no legislation that approves for flags to be crossed. There's no in the National Flag Act of Canada and National Flag Etiquette and the Canadian Court Martial Court Configuration Procedures and Protocol. None of that is listed as that. It's very specific. The flag's to be erect and behind the judge's right shoulder, left as you observe. So, getting back to this why is that important? Well, it's the position of honor. It has a place in the theater. It's a theater of representation. Everything in that theater is representational, including the positions and the power that it has in those positions. So we consent to that forum, that stage, that theater when we walk into it and begin to make our case. If we do not ensure it's set correctly in the beginning, or at least make a mustering and an attempt to that's on record, then we consent to so this makes summary matters binding. So I watched on Bridge City News. Chris Barber did an interview about Convoy, and he talked about his court matters. He said he has 9 indictable offenses. An indictable offense is a direct crime against the state. The state calls his charges indictable. I believe that. But when they came to him and Tamara and Pat and said they're indictable, I don't understand why none of them said I want a jury trial. Because on an indictable offense in anything over 5 years, you're entitled to a jury trial on request. If you believe that the nation's behind you, and you believe that everybody's in support of you, you want a jury of your peers to judge you, not the state that you 100% know is against you right off the bat before you even walk in there. This is really suspicious to me. So that's just a point to note about that, because I fear we're getting lulled into this situation. We're no longer aware of what our capacities are in law or legally. And when the state comes and starts pushing on us, we just consent. We've been programmed to. You get in an offense with your neighbors. I'm calling my lawyer. You don't even try to approach it in a humanistic way. You know, common sense. Common sense.
Yeah, and these.
So it's interesting watching all this patriotism right now, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah. Suddenly, the conservatives and the liberals are patriotic.
The conservatives always sort of had a toe in the water. They never really kind of evaded the tub completely like the liberals and the NDP did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because their mantra of common sense, which speaks to moral logic. Yeah. When convoy was going on and everybody was waving that flag, asking for their human rights and their inherent rights to be recognized, it was considered a hate symbol, and every opportunity to remove it and put another flag in its place was taken by our federal government and our provincial and municipal governments. Now, down in the south, they come in with this Doge investigation, and all this equity is going to be brought under a magnifying glass, and they put tariffs on us, and suddenly there's a wave of patriotism in our equity-based government.
Yeah, crazy. I just hope people don't fall for it. I think they've shown their colors in the last few years.
CBC is working pretty hard at making this an issue that's not. I was listening to CBC Talk Radio today because I force myself to, so I can see what the other side of the spectrum is working at. And, one of the call-in people, the thing was, what's your opinions on being the 51st state? Well, one woman calls in, all patriotic, a business owner from BC. She manufactures stainless steel food processing equipment. And she's upset because the steel she buys from the States is going to be more expensive now. And fucking buy Canadian mean nothing to you. Why aren't you buying your steel from Canada? We got steel mills in Hamilton running and up and all over the place going. What's up with that?
Yep.
Or another call, like they had 3 people call in. Another person that called in was a woman that's American, but she lived in Quebec for a little bit, so she feels that she's Canadian by virtue. And Trump is bad, and she's even tattooed a Canadian maple leaf on her ankle with the word A. Oh. And she lives up here now, and her son teaches coastal, and so she's really, she has a say, and Trump's bad, and that's because she has a tattoo, and she lived in Quebec for a little bit. Doesn't speak a word of French though. You see, all these veneers that come up, and I tried to call in because I actually wanted to call in and just say, ask every single one of these people what our Constitution is. Have them define. You're asking people what it is to be Canadian. You're not asking them what's our Constitution. Because what we are as Canadian is written right in your goddamn Constitution. You got everybody coming up with their imaginations of what it is. Nobody's going to the book. Nobody's going to the rules. The very rules they're going to use against you. And if you don't know what they are, you don't know how to function within them. Mark Miller coming out and handing off donuts and saying that, it's all about Pierre Poilievre with his illegal protest. He didn't say unlawful protest. His words are precise and specific. And nobody there said, well, was it unlawful? And somebody should have. And all your listeners, if anybody ever calls it an illegal protest, immediately challenge them and say, well, does that mean it was unlawful? And if they're a person of title or know anything about law, they're going to shut up right away and just look at you and blink. Because they don't want to admit the other dimension's present. And in order to engage you, they'll have to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we even have a national Flag of Canada Act.
Yes, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
National Flag of Canada Act. It'll fly in a position of honor, and it even says it specifically. We'll stand in a position of honor on Canadian representation, or words to that effect. But the flag of honor, or a position of honor. Nations of Unity, which is not what happened during convoy, was it?
Not at all.
Yeah. Represents the principles of freedom, democracy, courage, and justice upon which the nation is based, and that's on our Constitution. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Canadian flag represents all of the citizens of Canada. So when you walk in a courtroom, you have every right to expect it to be there to bind the judge. Whereas the Canadian flag represents pride in our great nation and support for those who have sacrificed their lives for it. I will tell you right now that I'm in a court that's being run by a judge protecting his son and throwing not just this veteran, but every other veteran before me that they abused under the bus at this world's largest nuclear power plant called Bruce Power, that they love more than any soldier, sailor, or airman that served in our forces. Promise you. So it's the justice part of it is kind of funny because like this one particular judge, Judge Kevin Sherwood of the Ontario Superior Court, Justice Walkerton Court. He's protecting his son, Jordan Sherwood, who's a director of civil maintenance at Bruce Power. And they're in the practice of denying benefits and obligations of accommodation to veterans that are suffering post-traumatic stress. They terminate them. They put them on a blacklist, and it's called blind firing. Their life becomes unlucky in everything they try to achieve at work. And when they snap, and if they snap, they get fired for just cause because they snapped, but it was provoked.
How terrible.
And the union, the Power Workers Union, the Society of Nuclear Professionals own 5% each of Bruce Power, which makes $3.5 billion a year, which means those independent units each get $175 million a year in ownership from the company. A union has a foundational obligation called a duty of collective fairness. And if you look up what that means and what its limits are, it is absolutely impossible to claim that you're providing that if you're in a position of ownership. Fraud's taking place. Massive fraud in the world's largest nuclear power plant. That's 30% of the power of Ontario. When Doug Ford says he can flip a switch and turn off power from Florida all the way up to Canada, it's nuclear power plants that he's talking about that are doing it. And they're breaking our laws. They're breaking the United States-Mexico trade deal. They're participating in human trafficking by document, and they are enslaving our people. And that's what we're afraid of. That's what we're facing. It's the fentanyl and all that as well. But it's just wider. And when Doge comes into it, STD scandal, which uncovered, I think it was $40 million of misappropriated Canadian funds into a slush fund, the CEO of Bruce Power is directly tied into all of that.
No
Michael
way.
Renchek was his name at the time. Yes.
Wow.
And if you go STD scandal, Annette Verscharen and Michael Renchek and hit enter, they're gonna pop up. The hits will all pop up, and you can look at him and read to him about how he's on that panel. So the Dodge investigation and USAID and all of that, it's all gonna dial back to here. We're participating. We're participating in it. What do you think Mark Carney's come forward? He's come forward to micromanage his future, potentially, because he's that scared.
Now, you have an event coming up soon. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but I know you have a long list of things you do want to talk about, and I'll just let you take over and get your information out for the people listening, so they can share it too with, if it applies to any of them in their future. It's good to be armed with the knowledge that's required. And yeah, if you don't see a flag in the courtroom, what can one say? Like, how would you address the judge?
What I do is I'm ignored every time I bring it up. They just dismiss me. But that doesn't stop me. Every day is a preamble that I do before it starts. And I protest the flag's not there, and I get the judge to acknowledge that and affirm that he's not going to put it in there for me on record. So I do that. Now, when the public come in, if the public were to come in and do that as well, it demonstrates to the judge that the public doesn't approve of the way that I'm being judged either. And so I've been encouraging people that, to go to any courthouse. I don't care what's happening. I don't care what the matter is that they're judging. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're walking in there and you identify that the stage isn't set right, and you're not in agreement with anybody being judged in a stage and forum so unbalanced. That's
It's
what
hard
we need to do.
Because you're brave, and to join the Canadian Armed Forces, you're really prepared to die for your country. But then you later find out that your country's betrayed everyone.
There's
It's like, what a pickle.
there's veterans that can't stand what I'm doing. Okay, I'll be honest with you. There's veterans that mock me. All right. There's veterans that think I'm a retard.
They're the yes men.
Well, yeah. You don't get promoted in the military for standing your ground. You see,
No.
in America, they have an organization, sort of unspoken of organization called the E4 Mafia.
Mm-hmm.
What that is basically the most senior ranking non-commissioned members, meaning you didn't take a leadership role, but you're high enough up there. You didn't you didn't stick your head in the bucket. In Canada, it would be a corporal. In the States, it's E4 private. So, I was a corporal, and I was an old corporal. Thing about officers and NCOs is if they want to progress, they got to please their boss. And if they want to please their boss, they have to make the machine and the troops behind them move. And the only way they're going to make the troops and them behind them move
makes sense.
Is to make agreement with the E4 Mafia.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It's all compartmentalized. And as long as you do as you're told and show loyalty and obedience, you will be promoted.
If you care about promotion, I didn't really give a whole bunch of craps about being promoted. I wanted experience, and if there was a group that got an extra $180 a month and wore a different hat and jumped out of airplanes and they were small and special and all that, I wanted to be part of that. I didn't care what rank I was. I just wanted to be in that clique, and I worked towards that. That's kind of how I did it. I lost any hope of being promoted shortly after I got out of school. I knew that I didn't like to have to do some of the things that you would have to do in order to be promoted. Couldn't compromise myself in such ways.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to be promoted in the Skull and Bones. What they're doing is not cool at all.
I don't know anything about the Skull and Bones. This university clique. I'm not a member of it. I never went through there, so I can't comment how good or bad they are. And people need to wake up to that too.
Yeah. Well, there's a
lot of fear porn going on about different organizations and groups, and people are being played. All right, straight up, tell you straight up, I've seen so much veneer, hate this group just because, and then I'm like, well, explain that, and they can't. And fear is a symptom of ignorance, and ignorance is evil. It's a choice, and it's evil.
Yep. I had someone contact me saying they were like basically from the Illuminati, and that they don't like what I'm talking about. They would rather me not say what I say, but my life's not in danger. And I think that's probably because I don't have such a big audience.
Anybody can call you up and say that. You're only here once, man. Listen.
Yeah, there's no fear. I don't feel any fear about it. I thought, oh great, Illuminati.
If you were to bring up the traditional map that's of the Masonic orders, it looks like a pyramid. There's no acknowledgement to any Illuminati in there. There's no order called the Illuminati that they designate in there and show on that chart. I'm pretty sure.
No, it's just like the symbol for a builder.
And like so
Trump's a builder, and so that the compass and the triangle are just tools of Freemasons, that builders that build with bricks and mortar.
The word world comes from the Greek cosmos with a K, and it means unity and order. Wrap your head around that. It's not a rock in space. It's a way of existing.
Mm-hmm.
And the word light, it's rooted from Hebrew, and it means container, a box.
Yeah, we're
unity.
Yeah.
Let me finish. Unity and order is a firmament within a containment.
Yeah.
It's organized It fixes. It's a magic fucking square. And if you're enlightened, En means in. If you are enlightened, you radiate within that unity and order. And the tools that you use to radiate within that unity and order are the words that we express with. Or a notion we cast. And that's important. But the mother record holds the past. And the mother record is made of words. So if you don't know what the words are you're applying, history will mistreat you.
Well, I do like when we start talking about words because they're so important. The misuse of words is happening before our eyes, and you and I both realize that. And a lot of people don't realize that either.
Well, so when you start talking about law and some of this stuff, like common law in particular, they're like, the first thing you're going to face is probably 70% going to be an ignorant person go, oh, you're just talking about straw man. And as soon as they go there, you already know that they've been programmed to dismiss because they're using the term straw man.
Yep.
And it's a dismissive term. Listen, our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, again, to say two things the same way is redundant. They're two different dimensions. Rights are inherent. Freedoms are civilly accepted. If you want, your rights are not at the discretion of another person. Even if you are present and ignorant of them, standing here in Canada, they are there, and somebody's obligated to recognize them, to protect your rights. Because a police officer oath says that he's going to protect the Constitution. If he's going to protect the Constitution, then he has to make sure that your rights aren't trespassed on. And the only way that happens is through your words, the capacity to which you say you exist in. If you say you're a citizen of Canada, you're a state creature.
Yep.
Canada is obligated to recognize you in your independent capacity. Therefore, they can't presume that you're the state creature at anything that you do. They have to ask you.
Yeah. Yep.
Or engage with you, and then you consent to the engagement. Excuse me, sir. The cops will always call you sir if you're in your capacity. They'll call you sir, or ma'am, or Mr. or Miss. Because that's title, and that's a limited existence. And if you don't correct them in that capacity that they presume straight up, then you've consented to it, and then that they grab you. They do it with intention.
Yeah, and the courts do that. Do you understand?
Well, it's like I say they do it with an intention, and I believe they do it with an intention. However, the way that they do it, it's not. They argue that it's not with an intention. It's confirmation. They're just confirming. It's like, why don't you presume me in the maximum capacity first? Why do you presume me in the smaller capacity? Why does your will drive you to presume me as less than right off the bat? That's because you want it that way. So now you're showing prejudicial judgment. Okay? Look, if they're doing an investigation, then they have to come in and they have to engage with you. Well, we're just doing an investigation. Well, I don't want to talk to you. Go away. I owe you no duty. And then they acknowledge that and they leave you alone, or they'll try to ask you more questions. And that's only conversation is the only thing that's going to make you consent to being in a lesser capacity. Your words.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why lawyers say don't talk to them. Don't say nothing.
Yep.
Because sidebar conversations that they have, they threaten the crown. If you do that, we can do this, and if we do this, then the box is opened up, and everybody knows. And they are bound in their order to kind of respect certain things, although that's getting twisted, I believe, right now. Pretty hard. Yeah.
Well, back to the freedom movement. Is there any advice that you could give? Because freedom can be negotiated. How would the Canadian people negotiate their freedom?
Walking into that courtroom and saying, where's the emblem of our nation? Where's the representation of the contract that we believe we're under? They've removed it. Your inherent rights are your constitutional Canadian rights and recognition of your inherent rights within them are now given a discretion. They're not inherent if they're at the discretion of another individual. So
No,
we've been sold out. They're distracting us right now with this Flag Day crap.
Yeah. Do you think? Oh, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. No, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about flags, but negotiating freedom.
Right. So getting back to negotiating for the freedoms, first of all, I argue that you don't have any standing to make a negotiation based on any legislation that we have in existence, because no binding obligation to its present, because that flag's been removed and we're under equity right now. The shield remains in the courtroom, and that's the corporate shield of Canada.
Right.
It represents money, and that's what's binding the judge because it's present. They made sure that stays. And the Policy on Communications and Federal Identity, Section 2.2, it states clearly, by edict, by or else order, by the Treasury Board, the judge is to make sure it's not in there, or the judge gets a spanking under Section 7 of the same policy. Therefore, there's no separation and there's no immunity of the court or separation of the court. It's being driven by the banks. Banks are telling them what to do.
This is the charter. A lot of people talk about the charter, my rights, but it's never been ratified. Does it even have any weight?
So
until it's ratified?
This is the minefield allegory that I present. I don't want to get into the argument between a bill and a charter and a DNA and all this crap. That's such a digressive tangent argument, and it's not relevant. What's relevant is inside the courtroom. They're saying charter rights, and it seems to have some kind of value, and the thing that represents it's not inside the courtroom. The emblem that represents that has been taken out, and they wouldn't have bothered taking it out if it didn't have any binding power that limits them from doing what they want to do to you. They wouldn't have gone through all the legislative, austere, skullduggery, backroom meetings, drafting things up in dark corners and trying to craft every word in order to make it sound like something that it's not, and then present it to you. They wouldn't have gone through all of that effort if they didn't have to. But they did.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So here's section 7, life, liberty, and security of the person.
Right. So, okay, let's look under provision. First word, everyone, one word, right? Words matter in legislation. If you look up any criminal code offense that's summary in nature, it's going to be a space between the every and the one. All right? Are you a number? Words matter. And then I'll go on to say without lawful excuse. But you're in a legal forum. See what I mean? So they without lawful excuse. Lawful excuse is the capacity to which you're standing in. If you're in full capacity as the man, as the human, the charge doesn't apply to you because you're not the registered number in the situation. You only are if you consent to being so. So words matter. Every one word means a collection of individuals, and that's identifying the body of Canadians that have the capacity to be individuals should they choose. Security of the person at the other end speaks to the limiting of the personage.
Yeah. Yep. This is like one of my favorite topics. Words.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
I think it's important.
Yeah, they don't apply those to ink onto paper haphazardly. And that's why I keep saying Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Rights and freedoms. They don't say the same thing twice. It's a waste of effort and time. They are two very distinct, different dimensions of capacity, and you can only be in one at any time. You can't be in them both at the same time. It's a choice. The choice is all the time. We make a choice. Anytime someone comes up to you and says, "Mister," that's because they want you in a limited capacity. They're not giving you respect. A lot of people might think they're giving you respect, but anybody like a cop or a mayor or a politician calls you sir or mister when they're speaking to you, they're not. civil candor in order to establish that you are within a limit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Say this one. Section 7 typically arise in connection with the administration of justice, which has in turn been defined as the state's conduct in the course of enforcing and securing compliance with the law.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
So we're talking about establishing capacities when they approach an individual.
mm-hmm.
Excuse me, sir, I'd like to speak to you. Oh, yes, what would you like, officer? You're having a title conversation.
Yeah.
And you've just said, I'm a meat droid. I'm a state creature. Come and do with me what you want. I'm a dummy.
I'm a meat droid. That's hilarious. Oh my God. A claimant must establish a sufficient causal connection between the impugned government action or law and the limit on life, liberty, or security of the person. Although the government action need not be the only or the dominant cause of the limit, there must be a real as opposed to speculative link.
Okay, so an example of that would be you are sitting in a restaurant and you start to choke. And you grab you do the universal I'm choking sign, but you cannot say a word. You've given an implied consent that you want intervention on your body in order to save your life. You're giving somebody, by doing this, you're giving a consent to somebody to come over and put hands on you, maybe hurt you, but try to save your life in the process. So that it's not a presumption that's made. It's called an implied consent. So this is important in medicine, and policing as well. But when you're able to say, when you speak, then you're inviting them in. So the state has to establish, and even if it doesn't do it through words, it's reserving situations where they would be allowed to presume and step in and intervene.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
And they're breaking down every section of the statement above, right?
Yeah.
To life, to liberty. It's all broken down with subsections. Yeah.
Yeah, and nobody looks at this. Nobody really researches this. So an entry-level introduction into this type of unpacking of legislation, which I encourage everybody to do. There's a channel on YouTube. It's a Canadian guy, and the channel's name is Eternally Aware. The guy goes by the handle John Spirit. He does a good entry-level I guess what do you want to call them? Forums on teaching forums on how to unpack that stuff. And I strongly encourage people to start familiarizing themselves through that guy, because I find it very, very well written. The capacities that we have, fundamentals of justice in Canada, interaction with the police, property rights. He's not like some of these other characters that come on there. Like, even I'll put myself in that category because I'm not a lawyer, right? I got common sense. I'm giving people advice here through the experiences that I've learned through where I worked in law enforcement, sort of on an annex to law enforcement. Mm-hmm. So this guy does a really good job for just the average citizen to look at it and see where they stand and what citations to make in order to bring potency to the matter that they're speaking to in any moment. Eternally Aware on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, I see his channel.
Yeah, he has one that's really good. It's 18 minutes and 1 second long, called Canada, My Rights and Your Obligation. And it was done about 3 years ago. That one's fantastic because he talks about the link between the international covenants and Canadian law. Yep, that's the fella. Yeah.
Subscribed.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great that he did that. So
he's been doing it for 13 years now. His videos go back 13 years. So you
Yeah,
can
a lot
actually see the
sure.
evolution of all that timeline that I speak about
Mhm.
from 2015 to now, all the things that kind of rapidly happened to remove the legal obligation to our rights. And I'll go over that in a second. Well, he kind of goes through it in different stages as you can watch how that evolves. There's different videos. 2015, liberals take office. 2015, searches at courthouses become mandatory. You walk into a courthouse before you even get into the body of the building, you have to go through this mandatory search. That search is a consent you do to remove the presumption of innocence that you have.
Yeah,
You do.
it does.
And to
Yeah.
prove it, and I've done this as an exercise, as a practical exercise at the Walkerton Courthouse and at the Owen Sound Courthouse in Ontario. I've sat and I've watched and I've waited for somebody that I knew was a lawyer to walk in, and they walk in and they walk right through, no search. And then I went right on their back pocket, started following through, and they tried to stop me. And I said, "What are you doing?" They, "Oh, we got to search you." And I go, "Why? For safety." "What do you mean? You didn't search them?" "Well, they're an agent of the court." "Well, I'm coming in for, as far as you're concerned, to self-represent, so I'm an agent of the court as well." "Oh, no, it's different. We got to give you a search and all this." And I was like, "Well, are you a public servant?" "Yes." "I see." And this is summary in nature, really. This is the Police Act you're talking about, 138 in the Police Act, right? Only the person. "Yes." "I see. Who's the master of my being before you in the summary matter? Who determines my capacity before you, servant? If I'm the master, slave, what are you to me in this matter? A pain in my fucking ass. Fuck off." When you walk into that courtroom, if you've searched on entry and you walk into that courtroom with no presumption of innocence on you, are you seen as equal and fair to what you're opposing inside that forum? No, you're not. They thought you were going to stab them at the doorway. And the other one's above the board, which is a joke. Right? So we do it all the time. Section 15 of the Charter, it's just, all are equal, seen and equal in the eyes of the law. Not of legal civil processes, of the law. And it's it's the box that the legal process box sits in. It's an entirely different firmament.
Yeah, I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be watching all that guy's show, all his videos.
Yeah, he's got some great ones that he does. The Police in You. That's a really good one because he gets into a case called Woe v. Copeland. This is all about a gentleman that the police walked up, just put hands on him, and started in a summary issue too, just started mauling him in Hamilton. And this opened up all of the details about where the rights are for police to actually walk in and make presumptions. And it's all unpacked in that case. Good read, good case to research and read. And become familiar with.
Go ahead.
No, because some of this stuff from a non-legal, you're not a lawyer, you're not a paralegal, you're just regular Joe, and you need to know a few things in order to help you navigate through a basic issue. It's like martial arts. You don't necessarily need to go into a style of martial art and learn all of its moves and all of its history. If you know one or two things with mastery level, like moves with mastery level, you can be just as effective with just one or two moves, because most dynamic interactions don't last longer than a couple seconds. It's that one move that you know really well that will be the one that ends it.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can pick a couple potent case citations around identity capacity. So if you're speaking about you're going to interact with a police officer, if I was one of the Wellington Street Crew guys, Wellington regular guys, this stuff should be forethought in their mind. And if they haven't gone there already, they should start by now, because they interact with the cops so much that this dialogue and confidence in it, because the more you practice it, the more confident you become. The more confident you become, the more free you become with your interactions in it, which radiates confidence, and then other people see it, and then they stand in that radiance,
Mm-hmm.
and they become empowered from that enlightenment. Yeah, I mean, I've been trying for a while now. And as I said, like, on the veteran forums in particular, when I go on veteran forums, I provoke in the sense that I challenge guys. Guys, like lately, guys are all in there being all patriotic and wave the flag day. And I'm like, idiot, you don't even fucking know we gave up on it in 2016. Here's the policy on communications. Now go to your veteran benefits for terms and conditions. Read under the Financial Act, all the things you signed off on. You're going to find this in here. You signed off on the removal of our identity as you stand here and try to rally us around it.
Yeah.
Now, I again, I don't believe they did it on purpose, but you know what? In the eyes of the law, is ignorance an excuse?
I think the really top people, the people we don't see, are the ones that do all of this. And we have yes men, running our government.
This has been like since our last show, Paul. So some of your viewers won't know. Like, I'm a little bit in a triggered state lately, because I've lost recently a couple friends.
Oh, really?
By their own doing. But one through used the MAID process, and the other one didn't. They took care of things themselves.
Oh, that's terrible.
Both these characters are, I don't like that. I'm trying to be vague because I don't want to disrespect families or nothing like that. Both these gentlemen, warriors, because they were. One guy was a JTF2. The guy who did it to himself was JTF2, former JTF2. The other guy was a airborne medic.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, brother.
Yeah, well, the one fellow was a big support element in what I'm going through. He was a resource that I would go to just to kind of, I would fish for a thumbs up on a perspective that I have, and I'd get that, that yellow thumbs up in my FB message box, and I'd know that I'm not in the weeds too far. And yeah, it was strange because it was like about the same time we did our last show, he fell off my Facebook. I just noticed, and it came to me, and I'm like, I wonder, because I was going to send him your show, and so then I entered him into my search, and then his name doesn't come up right away, and I was like, but his wife still did. So I thought, well, maybe my drama is just because it's a lot, man, and there's people that are close to me are targeted too, right?
Of course.
Like my one friend, he's in court now, and he's got a lot of bad luck. They're popping up strange. My other friends they're having strange audits done on them all the time. It's too much of a coincidence. So I just felt that maybe he just stepped out. Well, it was, 2 weeks ago, his wife messaged me and basically brought me up to speed of that situation and what happened and all of that. So she couldn't tell anybody because his body had to be, because of the way that he took care of himself, that the body had to go through an investigation to make sure there was no other influences that were present. I brought that about. Yeah. So then when I found out, I was because it's on top of everything else that's going on too, right? These guys didn't need to die.
Yep.
They didn't need to die.
Well, we don't need to die either because we have a purpose. We have a mission.
We've lost, and since the beginning of COVID, we have lost more life than we have in both World War II and Korea combined.
Yeah. Would you consider this a spiritual war?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a war of dimensions. If you don't want to call it a spiritual war, you can call it a war of dimensions of existence. There always have been different dimensions of existence. There have been those that have lived inside the containment protected.
Mm-hmm.
And then they controlled the order that everything outside it in the wilderness lived by. They fell. And the closer to it, the more under it you fell.
Have you heard of Alice Bailey?
No.
Well, she wrote a book in like 1919, and she wrote many books, but from 1919 to 1949. In one of her books, she basically says that the golden age begins March 21st, 2025, where everyone is elevated like almost instantly, like a biblical event almost.
I'm a New Year's baby. What's going on March 25th?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found it quite fascinating. She basically says, if there's the only way to deter this is people, three things. They have to believe in the Christ within, that we're all have the Christ within us. And that's
God's
one
will. God's will
like,
moves through you. If God's will moves through you and you're the filter,
yep.
Every day that you wake up, you decide whether you're going to be a good man or
not. There was three things. Let's see here. I'm going to have to... 2025. Here we go. I just found it fascinating because of the time and because it's next month. So I thought, well, this is timely. But she looked at the cycles, ancient cycles of the Yuga cycle. So she looked deeply into other systems to come up with. And let's just see. Oh, here we go. Recognition of the Christ within, the Christ spirit within, which is the light contained within us. In art, we're the container for it, right?
Yeah, you're the lamp. You're the lamp.
Yep. And the second one is recognition of the hierarchy. And to me, that tells me, okay, well, in the Bible, Jesus says the devil is the god of this world. So he would be a part of the hierarchy. So we have to accept God putting him in that role. You know what I mean? Recognition of the hierarchy. Yes, he's the god of this world. But, we're not to pray to him or bow down to him. But we should respect him, recognize him, and still pray to the Creator. So I think that's what number 2 is. And then number 3 is recognition of the divine plan. And I think that ties into the last one where, God appointed the devil as God of this world. And he is basically trying to give us life in prison like the crown attorney. But he doesn't think we're worthy of heaven. And that's where his role is in Job and everything.
I want to ask you something. So you just said the devil is the creator of this world.
No, not creator, God of.
Oh, God of this world. Okay, fine. Yes. God of this world. World.
Yep.
Unity and order.
Yep.
That's what it means. So how is that unity and order even perceived or agreed upon? How does it happen? It happens through expression. One meat droid talking to another meat droid. And in an agreed channel called a jurisdiction. Okay? So Who created that world? Who created that world? Well, whoever created the script, the root of the script that we use is that. So they say Adam and Eve came into the picture in 4004 BCE. That's strange, eh? That's pretty specific too. 4004 BCE.
Wow.
It's generally, academics agree that's Adam and Eve came into existence. All right. Well, we know that mankind's been around longer than that. So, if mankind's been around longer than that, what is that? That's when we started scratching in an agreed communication. More than one person agreed that one line in the dirt meant one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Or or a V with a line through the middle of it as a bull's head meant the beginning. All right? And had the numerical value of 1 because accounting came before expression. We coveted before we expressed.
Mm-hmm.
Like the covet of our will was not expressed before the representation of our property, our ass.
Well, I found
our ballast of our ship.
Yep.
Okay.
So I found Eves. I found the first Eve in Genesis 1, second Eve in Genesis 2, where he uses the rib. See Genesis 1 right here. It says Genesis 1, 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image, he created him male and female. So there's the first Eve right there. He created them together and they were equal. And this comes and brings in the story of Lilith.
But this is where I get frustrated with how we interpret Bible through modern script.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying.
Male and female, if you look at what those words really mean, we're not talking about a man and a woman or a man and a lady. We're talking about animals, beasts. Male is a sperm-bearing thing. Fee is a prefix, roots back to woo, which is wife of. And that's a title. It's not even a real existence. It's an entity. So
would you say that
women are sitting there going, I'm a woman, you're not a woman.
Would you say that's bad translation?
No, we did it with intention, and we imbued it's like Pavlovian bell ringing type stuff. You hear a sound and you associate the sound to a different reality, but the physical manifestation on you is the same.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be a bowl of food on you. It doesn't need to be a pussy with its legs fucking hanging out for you to drool. The fucking female word does it for you right away. So it's gender. The word gender before 1950s didn't even exist. It didn't leave the lips of any scholar, any scribe, none of it. It didn't exist. Gender was invented in the 1950s to divide us into a dictional dimension that a jurist would be applied to that's representational to reality, which means you agree to all this shit in the fucking ether zone up in here, and it's only enforceable because you believe it to be. It's Wizard of Oz shit, man.
I bet we're freaking people out.
Maybe a little bit. Some other people might just be like, click, beat it, you're a nutcase.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't understand what male means. Like you just told them what the true meaning of male.
That's why mankind. So when you read the original older Bibles, like the Bibles that were actually written in a time between 16, like in the King James Version, type thing. If you look at an 1800s written Bible and start reading through, you're not going to find, male and female word in there. There's just a bunch of stuff you're not going to see in there. But fucked up's become normal. We've accepted so much stuff into our language.
Yep.
That we're losing it. But in order to have your common recognition in a jurisdiction, then you have to be 100% correct, because they have the presumption and the guns and the authority that they feel they have. They're not looking for a mustering on your end. They're looking for one mistake.
Yeah.
One mistake tells them you're illiterate in their eyes. And the judge has the obligation, because he knows that your tongue wasn't shaped by you, is shaped by a system, but to participate in the system. The judge has to recognize your mustering, because the judge is bound under God's law as well as the rule of law in order to find the balance to which to measure you. And it's all rooted, we believe it's all rooted from a Hammurabi rule out of Babylon, but it's older than that. The Hammurabi rule is considered the first because it's a basalt pillar with a cipherable diction on it that talks about all the laws and the rules. And there's other tablets that parallel it and are similar, like the Emerald Tablet or the tablets of Mat, but out of Egypt.
Yep.
But this
That's
all evolved out of Mesopotamia
right.
and the creation of the first vowel L.
Yeah, and
Okay,
the
so
emerald
like
tablets kind
let,
of
let me keep going for a second here because I'm going to take you somewhere. In Hebrew script, there's the number 10 is called
yeah.
the yud or yod, and it looks like a little blue flame, like a little blue S like shape. It's considered the right hand of God. Now, when you look at the Sistine Chapel, you'll see the right hand of God reaching down to Adam, and it's shaped like a yud. Even the way Michelangelo positioned the hand, it looks like that you can see that shape that's trying to be achieved. So what drives the right hand? Through a Latin text, you would say it's the sinister side of the mind, because left is sinister in Latin, and the left brain drives the right hand.
Now, would you say it was a symbol?
What's that? The symbol? It looks like a blue S. It looks like a little blue flame. Number 10 in Hebrew text, and it carries right through from proto to mid to present to modern Hebrew. Yeah, it looks like it's a little accent. It looks like an S, and it would sit in the upper half of a regular sized letter. It would take up the space of the top third on a page. Are you looking for it? YUD Hebrew. Just write Hebrew Yud or Hebrew number 10. So then, okay, I'm going to digress too much. So you got that shape, and it's shaped like a hand, and I call it the bitch slap hand because it's driven by the sinister mind. And the only time that we need God to intervene in our life is because we're fucking up and we need help. We've made a mistake.
Yep.
All right, wrap your head around that. Before that letter, the Yud, there's the Tet. And the Tet in the Proto-Hebrew script, which means before Mid-Hebrew, the old Hebrew script, original Hebrew script, it's a T with a circle around it. An encircled X. And the X is the Tav, which is the end of their alphabet. The beginning and the end is the Tav, and that's an X. But they've turned it up and they've put a circle around it, and yes, there it is. And they've put a round around it. So that's the number 9 before that character is that circled X. That's I. All right. So if you look at the right hand of God being the outcome, it is I with an egg, which is 0, 10. An egg is an idea. It's a perception. It's a thought. So when you take the number 8 and you unwrap it, untwist it, you twist that egg and that star pops out of it, which is the vowel. It's true. That's the first vowel. If you say who's the first named author in history, they're going to tell you it's the daughter of King Sargon, Enheduanna, who worshipped Inanna and then Ishtar. And Inanna and Ishtar, they're lunar deities and underworld deities, and they capture representation, thoughts, representations, ideas, dreams, entities. That's your first vowel. The full circle back to something that's going to bring it back to the whole Canadian theme. Canadian. Cana, C-A-N-A, is rooted from the word cane, reed, that was used as a scribe utensil, which was used to write words with in contract. Dien, D-I-A-N, Dien, like Indian or Canadian. Dien is a reference to a deity in the Irish Celtic legends called Dien Ket. And he's also been associated with the Greeks Asclepius. All right? And Dien Ket is the god of healing. So Canadian is a Dien Ket limited in contract under the cane. When you get a caning and they put all those X's in the fucking into your ass and leave them there, marked into the contract of your hide, that's what they're doing. That's why it's called caning. Medusa turning man into stone, that's an allegory. That's an allegory. Turning a man into stone contract and then holding him to that entity existence and carrying him into time so that his ancestors can all be held to his acts or freed by his acts. This is so Enheduanna, the name Enheduanna, Enheduanna, in he of Anna. And one of the gods that she worshipped was for transgenderism. So if the name that we apply to this in today is Enheduanna, in he of Anna. Perhaps that character, you see, because back in the old order, if you had a child, the child was early known to not be a child that was either worthy of reproducing in your name or was not willing to or otherwise incapable of, that child would be sent to temple. Inside this walled city with a limited population where everything had order, they would be sent to temple. And then temple would carry out whatever they carry out to determine where that child would fit into their order. Some would become enlightened. Others, not so much. And that's kind of how we maintained order and unity back then. We did a lot of horrific things back then, but
That's true.
I tend to think that there's a dimension of our society that kind of keeps one foot in that old aisle for old reasons. And the fight, when you say, is there a fight between heaven and hell or spiritual right now? And I said it's dimensional. When I say it's dimensional, it's those two different wills. There's a will that considers itself in control of everything we express and therefore enslaves us by it. And they feel entitled to do that to us. And then there's the rest of us that have this moral resonance. And what they want to do is keep our moral resonance from ever aligning across the board. Should humanity ever morally fucking resonate in concert, in unity, they got big fucking trucks. You only need 2% to fucking rock the boat and knock it over.
Yeah.
You only need 2%. Ottawa,
which is crazy.
Like if you say that 250,000 people were in Ottawa on any given day, that is what is that? What's that percentage of our population? It's less than 1%, and it brought the nation to its knees. Wellington Street, one street in one city, in one of the largest countries in the world, was brought to its knees because someone brought in hot tubs, bouncy councils, and played ball hockey on it. Be fucking proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be really proud of that. That is one for the great-grandchildren. That is like the vehicle that I drove up there. It's going in the storage. It's a relic.
We almost have 40 million people.
There you go. So, I mean, like less than 0.25 of a percentile.
Yeah, probably half of them are immigrants.
There was it scared Ottawa when that collection of just a smorgasbord of Canadian society was there, all resonating under the same thing. Now they got us fractured into these feral cells that we're like everybody's following a different brand right now. They want to keep that going as long as they can too. Like up at the top.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they want to keep us. They want to keep us fighting over parental rights on this side, flag on this side. These people about carbon tax. These people, if they can keep us in those fractured cells with their leaderships, all just kind of bickering about who should stand under what thing, you know. So, like going back to that flag thing again, right back to the flag thing, full circle. You know, when I said that what we should do, what anybody can do about getting that flag back into our courtroom. That is the new approach. we'll never pull off a convoy like that again. And I'll promise you, if anybody ever tries to, they have a convoy fucking operational plan that's already been drafted up and mastered by now. It will not be fucking tolerated in the same way it was last time. Promise you. So you're never going to pull that off again. So people got to start thinking about how we're going to resonate in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying that you don't have to drive to Ottawa. You don't have to drive to any city. You don't have to go out of your way. All you got to do is pick one day this week and go to a courthouse and politely, at the opening of the record, it can be after a break, it can be after at the opening of the day, just after a lunch, just at some point after a recess. As soon as they open the record, you politely stand up, put your hand up, and say, "Before we continue, I noticed that the emblem of our nation is not present in the court to represent our Constitution, and I'm not very comfortable with that. Can you explain to me why it's not present?" They're going to tell you to go away and leave. And do that, but once we start signaling to the judiciary that we notice, we don't agree, we fucking care, they're gonna notice. And I promise you, once everybody starts doing that, you just start watching and see what kind of reaction that they have. Is bird flu gonna become a big thing? Are we gonna go on a lockdown? Because they don't want to talk about that directly, that people are starting to do that. It's peaceful.
Well, we've got an election on 27th.
Yeah.
But the Dominion voting machines, I have like very little faith that because they destroy the evidence not long after.
Oh yeah, no, it's the electronic voting is all crap. I don't have any faith in our election process. Never have. Haven't for since 2012. I started waking up.
Yeah, I don't have any faith whatsoever. But all the top parties, the mainstream parties, are all for it. Nobody's fighting about it. There's only a few parties that are talking about getting rid of them. Like the New Blue, Libertarian will do it. Who else?
What would be the reasons to hesitate?
Yeah, because
there's a reason.
Ottawa. I think
the way the dialogue can get spun, and if you make a complaint about one thing, how many doors do you open up to be brought back to you? How much do you convolute? Do you want to drag a timeline out? You know what I mean? So, for example, if I know that Dominion's corrupt, and I know that we need an election, and I know how Dominion's corrupt, and I know that I can prove it after the election if they try it. Do the election anyway, because getting the election done is what you need to do. And if you can prove that they're fucking immediately after the election, if you can prove that they fucking cheated, then you caught them, you catch them that way. Because the reality is if you don't force it like that, you won't get the outcome you want in the timeline you want. Because if you try to argue it up front and before the election, you're a whiner before it started, and you're a whiner after it's fucking done.
Yeah, well, I think because Ottawa is in Ontario, I think that the provincial government is probably captured. And, the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the NDP are fine with that, so long as they all get their turn.
Yeah. You see, like, Melissa Landsman, she was Doug Ford's campaign manager. Yeah. I'm not comfortable with that. Like, so, maybe she elevated to the feds because she literally was good at taking a corrupt goof and fucking putting them in, and that worked for, but I don't know.
She's full
but
pride.
It kind of bothers me because what I do know is that she would have to be aware of what Doug Ford is up to.
Yeah.
In ways that even others aren't within his own caucus.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get bad vibes from that one.
But as far as her making major missteps in the House and doing something that I can point to that says she's questionable, she hasn't done anything. I can't point to anything about her other than the fact she used to be Doug Ford's campaign manager so far that makes me question the role that she's playing now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
unlike Jody Wilson-Raybould, for example, who basically drafted everything that took away our identity and then stepped out. Policy on Communications, Federal Identity, she was Minister of Justice for that. 2015, when the searches went in the court, she was Minister of Justice for that. 2018, when 296.1 was repealed and the supremacy of God was removed from all oaths and all of that, she was Justice Minister for that.
Wow.
And in 2019 of August, when they modified the Policy on Communications and Federal Identity, stripped it from the courtroom, she was signatory to that too. So I'm wondering whether the SNC Lavalin thing was really what she was pulled off for, or that was just a good smokescreen to throw up, and she was actually pulled off for something else. And
that's possible.
What is she doing now? Jennifer O'Connell just announced last week she's not running again. And the Liberals, you know that chipmunk cheek whining thing? 23 years old, into politics in Pickering, another nuclear community that's corrupt and filthy. Really, filthy corruption being driven by a shadow nuclear industry that is, I allege, is satanic in its nature and everything about it. I'm not convinced. When I worked there in the level of security I did, I seen some upper executive types that I mean, like they walk right out of a fucking vampire movie book when they come in black suit, black vest, black tails on the suit. Guy's so old, looks like he brushes his hair with a poop brush. He's got a gothic, black-haired, 23-year-old skin, like bleach skin looking secretary walking with him, man. It's just creepy as fuck, man. Talk to this, and I'm talking about a specific character, and anybody who's listening to this that's from Bruce Power knows exactly who I'm fucking speaking about. And you speak to this character, and like in the first couple minutes, like this guy will tell you he's like one of 3 Canadians or men on the earth that have all the licenses for nuclear industry that he has. And it's like he has to let you know how important he is within the first 3 minutes of meeting him. Almost like he's afraid. Otherwise, you would jump up and punch him in the throat. Like I don't get it. I don't get why you got to front like that so hard.
That could be true, yeah. But I am black-pilled. I think we have the illusion of election. I think it's just a mind game. I just wish there was a way that we could just collectively say no to Dominion voting machine. Get rid of it. Go to paper ballots. Like we could just have a protest.
Use it. Don't use it. Like you have an option to walk into a voting center and fill out a ballot by hand, right? Like that's an option. The Dominion electronic voting am I right? I haven't voted in like fucking 3 elections, so fill me in. I only know what I've researched.
Last time I, went behind a thing and I had to fill in the paper and then they put it in the machine. There was no option. But I told them right away.
The machine validates the ballots. The machine counts your hand. Yep. Okay.
And then the ballot just goes into the box. They end up destroying it anyway. So all the evidence is gone. That's why I think they're cheating. But it's already been proven that the machines can be hacked in an American court. They proved it.
The 2015 elections, I went to the local voting center to spoil my vote. And so when they gave me the ballot, they gave it to me, and I'm like, "Where's the box that you check to spoil your vote?" Because there used to be a box that you would actually check off. Yeah. Because they want to know who actually showed up and just has no confidence in anybody. They used to care about that. They don't no more. They took that box on.
No.
So I just took a pen and just wrote, "You're all fucked" right across it and handed it to them. I was pissed off. I made a bit of a scene in there. I'm like, what? Why is this changed? Somebody tell me, where's the head Karen around here can come in and explain to me what's going on?
See, now I know we're brothers because I made a scene too. I said, Everyone see that? All the workers were watching me. And they said, what? My vote just got stolen. So I just let them know that, I know that vote's getting stolen with these machines. Yeah, I just wish there was. It's like I feel helpless. Like
I have
nothing we can do. They set
have a
us up. They got us
photograph.
on the map.
I have a photograph that somebody sent me from a cell phone that they took a picture of one of these voting machines, and they took a picture of the data plate in one of the local areas that we got around here for our elections. And so I got that and I hung on to it. I was like, that's cool. I'm going to hang on to that. But I mean, I haven't started to, start looking at those numbers and doing all kinds of weird searches and finding out where it takes me and what plants and parts and where they come from. And I haven't gone down that rabbit hole because I'm only a man and I got a storm run. I'm riding my bike ahead of a fucking rainstorm right now as fast as I can.
Yep.
No.
Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Anything else that you wanted to share?
No, man. I just appreciate,
We could talk about anything.
Well, hey, how about the? I noticed that you've had a run of politicians, guys, come on.
Yep.
I've been following that and watching it. I'm to any of those people that may be watching, I think that people are either hiding the fact that there's two dimensions of existence, or they just don't want to talk. So, for example, you had one gentleman that was going to run for the Ontario Blue Party, I think it's called, glasses. Yep. And so you said something about the flag being flown, and he was hesitant. Well, or the Ontario flag, and he went on to this thing, and I was like, wow, that hesitation should not be present. He can't lie, right? So he's got to tell you the truth. So the way that politicians evade telling you a truth that's awkward for them, they'll go into a fucking big long dialogue about other options that they like too.
Honestly,
this idea and that idea, and there's all these other. No, I asked you a specific fucking question. I don't care about your Ontario flag. I don't care about fucking any of that other shit. Do we have a fucking constitution? Is it represented by that fucking emblem? Does that emblem fucking mean something? Full stop, nothing else but.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to hesitate, haw, try to fucking talk around that, then you're evading. And if you're evading, you're hiding something. And if you're hiding something, that means you think you fucking know something more than the rest of us. And it's probably something we don't want to know, or we would like to know, but you don't want us to know because it could affect your outcome. That's a fair apprehension to have. And if these politicians want to be leaders, wannabes, okay? Wannabes. You got to start being a leader.
The thing about a lot of the in his defense, I would say.
I'm speaking generally. I'm not targeting him as an individual. I just use that situation. In fairness,
no, I understand your perspective 100%.
In fairness to him, it's not just him exclusively. This is something I see across the board, and all of these people that are craving this title of leader, they're consistent in how they're evasive.
I would think that they just don't know. It's quite possible. These are just regular people that say, "Okay, I'll run." They don't know shit, and they just believe in the platform. So they have a lot to learn.
And just do what you're told thereafter.
But this is what's important about you, because you can direct, you can help people because these things are important. These are important. If you want to run, these are things that you need to learn. You need to know. They need to know the charter.
My role in life is to be the free, aggravated, and radical. All right. I that's what I am. I am jack of all, master of none, and that's just the way it has to be. Like when I told you in the beginning about the Army, I didn't get in the Army to be a fucking general. I got in for experiences.
Yep.
And to build my toolbox of life skills to move forward in life. That's the only reason I was in it, and well, not the only reason. Of course, there was national pride at the time and all of that stuff, and brotherhood. Sure. But a lot of that stuff's starting to wear a really fucking Victoria's Secret thin right now. I'm telling you. because I'm tired of all these
Yeah.
bullshit.
You see the ship sinking. And that must be tough because you have a military mind. You want to survive. You have survival skills. And you're seeing the ship go down and all these people are going to drown. And so
I have a
there's
perspective, right? So, I like in the freedom movement and all of that. If you say you're a veteran, you got all these people that just kind of fucking want to run out of the woodwork and hug you and fucking elevate you like you're
that's not what you. I don't
body
see
perfect
that
or something like that. Listen, I'm
you,
not.
you don't want that.
I'm
I
not
know
trying to
that.
tell everybody that I'm more special or less special or anything else like that. It's not. The only reason that I invoke all of that, I'll call it sexy stuff that I've done in the military and since then, is to give credibility to the perspective of advice that I give.
Yeah, of course.
If you want to, because if I try
No,
to speak at all my academic level, it's grade 9. There you
I
go.
know you're not feeding them home.
You know,
But-
I got to speak to you from the spooky academics that I've gone on in order to bring credibility to what I'm speaking about. I hate having to do it.
But that's what I like about you. You're humbled. You didn't go in the Canadian Armed Forces to be worshipped.
No.
I mean, you
No,
did it for the experiences, and you did it because you're special. You're have compassion. You know, you want to learn. You want to be the best that you can be, and have experiences that will keep you alive in a bad situation. You know, I see all these things present, but you are fed up because you're watching the walls crumble down, and nobody knows what to do.
Yeah.
It's like totally help, and not one person can fix it.
Yeah, I had a veteran buddy from the Patricias, right? The other night he's puts up 3 flags on Facebook on a post, and a Mexican flag, American flag, and Canadian flag. American flag's in the center, and he's all "Hooah, Canada" and all this shit. And I'm like, 3 flags. If you felt that way, the Canadian flag would be in the center. And because you don't notice that, dude, these are all the other things you don't notice. So I unpacked all this stuff. He goes, "Oh, I didn't post that for a lecture." I'm like, well, if I didn't tell you, you'd never fucking know. Unfriended.
Oh my god!
So that's how many fucks some of them really care, right? They're their own fragile fucking egos and fucking sensitivities, and fuck them. Fuck them.
You're a hard love kind of friend. You know, you're not there to soften and cushion and give back rubs. You're a truth teller, you know. And if someone is going to put out a flag, there is etiquette, and you respect that etiquette, you know. So it's too bad he unfriended you. Jesus. People are too soft. People are being bred to be soft, though, in our school.
When you're talking about soldiers or former service members in particular, right? They have their brain wrapped around what they think they're doing. And if somebody tells them that they're not doing what they think they're doing, like in the Army, you're punished if you say sorry. You don't say sorry in the Army.
No.
So when you're in this mindset where you just keep moving forward, and sorry is a fucking dirty thing to say, and someone corrects you in the way that I present it, it's just,
yes, sir.
Fuck you, and they walk away. And they walk away.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well,
it's all respect. It's all respectful.
It was a time when I served, because I told you at the rank level that I sat in, I couldn't be chirpy and I could be saucy in some ways and not openly in others. I had to be careful.
Absolutely.
I don't have that problem anymore so much.
Yeah.
In some ways, and you know, when I was in the Army, I never had to worry about fucking police coming out of fucking gunpoint, blowing windows out, and dragging me through a fucking car for the way I think.
Can we do a show?
You do.
Yeah. No, that's good though. That's good. See, I respect you. I think I like you very much. Right from the start, though.
Well, I appreciate it. Back at
you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, and I know you're gonna be honest with me, and that's what I love. You know, that's the whole point of this whole podcast. Really, it's about truth and being honest and honesty. And even if I make a mistake, I'm willing to correct myself. You know,
it's like the guy's show that I was on that you kind of noticed me on before you brought me on this show.
Yeah.
Me and him were having a conversation on Zoom, just one-on-one in that. And he's like, "You don't have any habits." Nah, I'm a pothead. He goes, yeah, coke, no. Drink, no. No habits, no. That blew his mind. And this guy ran in circles in the convoy leadership movement, and he was
Yeah.
convinced that everybody was a fucking cokehead.
Really?
And they were controllable as a result. So this blew his mind. This is the way it went to me, right? To my ears. So I was just like, yeah, no, I don't got that problem. And I ain't in here for fucking money either. I don't want to start a TikTok channel. I don't want to cut with funny fucking coins. I don't want to market t-shirts or fucking any of that shit. It's not good faith if I'm fucking making money off it. I'm here in good faith. I'm going to put my foot into the situation I want to put my foot into and leave my mark in it and walk away. And that's it. And the mark that I leave, I hope, will be one that will fucking benefit everybody.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for me.
And that's one thing where we're the same.
Yeah.
I don't have sponsors. I don't look for sponsors. Yeah. I don't ask for money. It has to be clean,
They can't touch you then. You're in good faith. As long as your expression is good in good faith, you're safe. The second you start marketing it, you're into the Roman.
Yep.
Doing Roman shit.
I don't want nothing to do with that. If I'm going to make money, I will do it playing piano, where it's very safe. You want to get into something crazy right now? The spiritual realm, Asherah, consort to God.
Yep. Sounds a lot like Ishtar, doesn't it?
But that's like something that very few people know about.
It's becoming more. People are going there a bit more. People are starting to dig into the Old Testament Gnostic logic a bit more intensely now than before, I think.
Well, the Emerald Tablets basically cover the years that are missing in the Bible of Yeshua, like from 14 to 32 years old. It basically covers his life that's not covered. So it's crazy how they've cut and pasted everything, It's like the only way to get everything is to read everything. It's like it's all been divided.
Well, different scripts. Every time we change a script, we change the meaning of what the script represents. Mm-hmm. A little bit, right? And if that's called a Semitic drift. What creature stole the knowledge out of Mesopotamia? The Anzu bird. What god brought writing to Egypt? Thoth, the bird.
Yep. Yeah, and that's who he studied, Thoth, according to the Emerald Tablets.
So in our society, your baby, your son, your child is your missus gives the child's born, and then it's handed to the state, and then the state takes the child, separates the child from the mother, bleeds out one of its souls so it can make a kid, registers the child, and then the stork delivers it back to you with its name created and registered to the state.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
The stork allegory is just that, it's the ibis.
Yep. Can you undo your birth certificate?
Yeah, people. I've met some people that have legally killed themselves, and they killed their legal identity. I'm not going to. I don't do that. I don't endorse that. I don't endorse anarchism either. I'm not an anarchist. I'm not a fan of anarchism. I believe that there's a requirement for a collective. I'm about the participation, the freedom of participation part of it.
I would agree. I'm on the same line there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a legal way to do it where no one gets hurt, and we regain freedom. Regaining freedoms is, if they could be negotiated, we should definitely be doing that.
Our identity has been under attack for a long time. A lot of psychologists, lawyers, sociologists have sat like witches in a circle, and I've tried to think of, from the outside in, how to narrow in on us. But when you start thinking about words like gender, which introduce these terms like male and female, and all of these language things are what's your date of birth. That's a specific question. They don't want to know when you're born. They want to know when you're registered. What's your date of birth? All right. You can respond to them, say, I was born on this date. And that's your response. You're not telling them what they want to know. You're telling them when you're born and you're correcting them. But the also DLB on a form is suggestive. M and F on a form in capital letters is suggestive. If the F is present, it's not mankind. Right? It's male or female, so they're looking for a gender. It's all of these things limit you into a creature. They're all consents. I'm this. I'm this. I'm this. I'm in this capacity. I'm in this capacity in this regard. This capacity in this regard. This capacity in this regard. I'm a fucking thing. and that X symbol sign here, and they put an X. The reason they put that X is it's the last character in the Hebrew diction.
Yeah.
All right. So when they say that, again, I'm going to keep telling people this. That isn't in Revelations. Yes, it is. It's been hidden in a lie. Rev 1:8. I am the Alpha and the Omega. He never said that. He wouldn't have said that. He would have said I'm the Aleph Tav. X marks the spot. So that star that I talk about, that's the first vowel. Isn't it interesting? Because that was created, 2,500 years before Christ, is known as the first double cross. It's that tet with the end put over top of it. Your crisscross. Your 8-pointed star. It's the first application of it, created the first vowel that made words that express your will and identify you as an individual in entity form. You're an alien. You're an alien. Alien. You're an extraterrestrial. Spaceman. And I'm a space scout.
Wow.
Yeah. So they get that whole movie E.T., that's just a fucking mindfuck skullduggery game to have you looking up here when in reality it's within.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was done at a particular time in order to confuse our generation in the time we are right now. And if you can imagine that that's reality, and I suggest you should try. And you know how long and hard they've been working on what they're working on to get to where they are right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I think it's all coming to an end. The 2030 agenda and like everything, mRNA, Alice Bailey. I mean, she just showed up in my world like not long ago. And this is the way it's been going, where you showed up. And then, I mean, to me, you're like gold. You may not know. I know you're humble and everything, but I value everything that comes into my world right now because it's all pertinent. It all like matters, and it's all answering questions for me. So I can share that with other people. And every show has been like that too. They just happen. You know, all of a sudden I've got this topic, I've got this guest, and it's what I needed.
I believe in the celestial. I believe in the celestial mapping and timeline mapping over the ages. All right, I believe that we're going through a cycle of things, just in a different stage and set. And you know, the Great Conjunction, when it happened, we came into Aquarius for real, 2021. Yep. Well, I believe that in like the 60s when they had that false age of Aquarius, that was a big psyop, false, fake. The Enlightenment, the energy shift in Enlightenment was induced through narcotics and drugs deliberately by the CIA, and they measured how the population and how they would struggle with them. And you look at all the conflicts then, and where they were and what was going on, and that was a rehearsal. I'm going to suggest to you that was a fucking deliberately put upon man experiment that was to determine how they were going to deal with shit now. fast forward to 2008, 2011 financial crisis. Again,
Yep.
that was all. 3 countries had 3 different approaches that I know of. Iceland had a recovery approach, Greenland did a recovery approach, and Venezuela did a. One was communist, the other one, and Greece, and all of them did a different way. And it was all around the gold and silver currency and what was happening with gold and silver.
And
the other interesting thing that people should note about that era then and where we are right now is then everybody was excited because gold was at $1,800 an ounce, and it was the most it was ever Canadian dollars. It was the most it was ever worth. And at the same time, silver was worth 47. So for $1,800 for 1 ounce of gold, $47 got you 1 ounce of silver. That's the ratio. Today, as we talk right now, or I shouldn't say that, as of Friday, because I haven't looked yet today, as of Friday, it was $4,000 an ounce for gold and $45 an ounce for silver. So based on the 2008 to 2011 ratio to today's ratio, like I could open up and look at whatever the price of silver is right now, and I wouldn't be over top surprised if I saw $100 an ounce. It can happen at any time. It's probably not going to happen until after the spring. I would imagine, because there's a whole lot of. Mark Carney came out of the woodwork to micromanage because he's terrified of what's about to come. And the second that Epstein list fucking drops and the connections to Doge drop, there's going to be big balls swinging everywhere, Boyle.
Oh,
and the scrambling is going to be like typically what big powerful organizations when faced with this type of thing do is they do these false flag and these distraction operations. So if there was ever a time where we were going to start seeing fucking bad luck and mother nature fucking issues and all of that crap, it's going to be in the fog of that next 60 to 90 days. Like I said 30 days ago, the next 60 to 90 days. So you can hold me to the next 60 days.
I mean, he's going into every agency, so I mean, I expect assassination attempts left, right, and center.
Nah, I don't think.
You don't think so? Like CIA.
You don't achieve anything through assassinations at this stage of the game. The awareness is such that it becomes a point where you just go full in tyranny and just start. And like we don't stand a chance against the states as a nation. We are now relying on other nations across oceans to try to help us in some way with some technology that they have probably, but I'm not too optimistic that we stand a chance against the states if they decided to at all, dude. There just ain't no fucking way. They can bring, as a matter of fact, the other night I was thinking about it and I was like, gee whiz, you know what? If the Americans really wanted to fucking make another big fucking flag in history, they could probably pull off the largest and last airborne operation in the world's history on Canada. What are we going to intercept? Fucking starlifters loaded with, battle groups of troops and equipment flying over top and just dropping out of the fucking planes overhead into your farm fields. That would happen. It could fucking happen, man.
It could. I just hope they target the. I mean, well, okay, I won't say that. I gotta watch what I say because YouTube will just beat me up.
We got nothing that could intercept it. We got nothing here that would intercept it.
No.
We can't even find a scramble jet to shoot down a Chinese balloon over Lake Huron, Paul.
I know what the hell.
A balloon. Yep. We had to ask the states to shoot a fucking balloon out of the sky for us.
Oh my god! Yeah, it went right through. Came right through.
For weeks.
Balloon.
For weeks.
Oh man, I know that showed a lot right there. That nothing was done. That it was allowed to go right through. Collect whatever data that it needed. It went through the states too. They didn't shoot it down until like it was finished its work.
Let's have some fun with this for a second, okay? I just want to explain it to you. The previous largest airborne operation was Arnhem. It was all about bridges. So what the airborne did then, the Allied airborne forces, they dropped in the massive amount of troops into these areas forward, and it was called the seize and hold operation. It's a type of airborne operation. You land in front of everybody else, and their job was to hold bridges so that the mechanized could roll through them quickly to get to Berlin.
Right.
Arnhem was the last bridge. It's what the movie A Bridge Too Far is named as it is. And these airborne troops were stuck there for like 2 fucking weeks and getting beat up. They had no idea that it was a seasoned veteran panzer unit from the Russian front lines taking leave there. It fucking literally landed on top of battle-hardened veterans of the Waffen-SS panzer units, mechanized armored troops against airborne troops. That just basically everything you got's what you stepped out the door of the plane with, right? The boys held off for a long time. All right, so that stage is set. Ontario, southwestern Ontario. Look how much of a fucking panic they had over just one bridge, Windsor.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if they shut down all their fucking bridges. And then they fly in on this airborne operation, like I suggested, and they seize the fucking lower boot of southwestern Ontario, cut it right the fuck off, and then start rolling their shit across those bridges. Wait, what are we gonna do? And most of the people in Canada live in that area. Like in the entirety of Canada, the largest demographic and densest population is in that exact same area. So you break the financial economic will and spine of the fucking province, as well as its ability to move goods back and forth across these bridges. Now, what they say Windsor Bridge was costing them, like it was millions a day. Like I think they had like millions an hour. I think they had it down the timelines. It was so much like millions of dollars every hour or something like that. They sensationalized it for sure, but at the end of the day, it was painful. Every minute was painful. How long do you think we can handle that? Took them 2 weeks to scramble a resistance to a bunch of unarmed civilians standing on the bridge. How long is it going to take to remove an American battle group? Hey, is Chrysler going to rally their union members and push them into the river? Fucking clowns.
Yeah, well, I wasn't very happy with the police in Ottawa. Or I think they were from out of town, though. Could have been RCMP.
There was an augmented force there. Make no mistake, there was a scrambling from everywhere and abroad.
Really?
Those UN planes that landed in North Bay and all this crap. Fucking they're just flying in there for servicing and all that. Let me tell you something straight up right now, plain and simple. If you're flying in a UN aircraft and you need fucking servicing, you're not going to land in fucking North Bay. You're going to Trenton or you're going to Ottawa because that's where your best maintenance crews are. Right. That's where your fastest turnaround is. It isn't out in fucking North Bay. All right? North Bay's austere. They hope nobody saw those fucking planes. And it's on fucking Highway 17, straight as a beggar can spit, shot right down the fucking highway to fucking Ottawa in the back of a transport truck so nobody would notice. Probably wave and cheer them as they fucking went. With a base halfway between at Petawawa where they can get equipped and dressed and organized, fed, straightened out, and moved down the road. And that's what happened. It wasn't even troops. It was United States. It was the United Nations police force. They have a constabulary. They were brought in. It's like probably about 300 of them. It was 2 plane loads, so probably about 300 of them. They were brought in. They were moved up to Petawawa. They were housed at Petawawa. They got shaken out. They got familiarization, emergency orders. And then they got routed on down the road to Ottawa for the 18th. And then they were there in Ottawa doing their thing, and then they were swiftly taken out just as fucking fast. What Danny Beaufort did, and anybody that's tactical will acknowledge this. See, because he can't say certain things, and he didn't want to sit. He didn't want to do something where he was plainly going, "Look, they are this." So he did it a different way. The first two groups that he walked up to try to get himself arrested, he knew they didn't speak fucking English, and he knew they didn't speak Canadian French, and he knew they probably wouldn't even say a word anyway because they are metroids. They weren't to engage with anybody. There was somebody behind them that was telling them what to do. They're just a shield wall. That's what they were.
Yeah. Yep.
So he walked up and tried to, and they wouldn't speak to him. They wouldn't even acknowledge him. They wouldn't even like enter into a conversation. Nothing. That's because they were ordered not to do that, and that's because they're not from here, and they didn't want to have that compromised. That's why there was no identifiers on their uniforms, just color patches.
Yep.
So he went to two lines. He tried to turn himself in, and he got the same response. And then the last line that he went to was very clearly Ottawa police. You could see all their markers, and RCMP were there. And he walked in, turned himself in. They recognized him, and they pulled him in. Right away, they all recognized him and pulled him right in. And then he did his little sit down, and he was released the same day. Go figure. But so what he was doing that's called a tactical disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
So he was showing everybody, and those who with the eyes to see would see it.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't get in shit for fucking disclosing anything that he otherwise shouldn't, because he was just trying to turn himself in. You know, it's like that old U2 pilot that got shot down, the first U2 guy, and when he was prisoner, he was blinking out SOS and torture in Morse code. He was torture. He kept on blinking out torture when he was blinking. He was doing Morse code when they were talking to him. So anybody was watching the video while he was saying, "Yeah, I'm guilty of war crimes in the United States. It's such a gross thing," and he was blinking out torture over and over and over again.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Morse code.
You're in a theater.
Yeah.
Anytime a camera's on you, you're in a fucking theater. You need to match your presence in that situation. You know, Charlie Manson. If you look at the Charlie Manson interviews when he's in prison, you imagine you're Charlie Manson in prison. You live in this fucking concrete closet, 23 a day, for life. You get opportunity on a camera, and you know that you can express in a certain channel, and people will interpret your will, even though it's not. You can say things without saying things. It happens all the time. Like in the court, in the flag shit. That's an example. A missing flag in the court. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I got into podcasts even though I have a face meant for radio.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, you didn't hear that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was saying I realized that I do a podcast, but I really have a face for radio.
Dude, look at me.
I gotta try to make you smile. I know it's not easy. You're very
truth ain't a beauty contest, man.
You're a very serious man.
Yeah, truth ain't a beauty contest. It could be fucking ugly as fuck.
Do you think there was something in the fog? Because I haven't been the same since. Do you remember the fog?
Yeah, I haven't. I haven't really kind of gone there or entertained it. I've seen some of the claims. I've seen the patents that people have been putting out. They exist. Does it mean they're being used? At the same time,
Yeah, that's hard to know. Yeah. All I know is I got really, really sick, and all my herbalist friends came in and gave me all this medicine.
Well,
and, thank God for them, because they made me better. But my voice has been I've been losing my voice every day since.
Should it ever be discovered that is what's happening right now?
Mm-hmm.
And considering the fact that we leveled Iraq over weapons of mass destruction,
right?
What kind of belt we going to use on our own asses over this thing?
Yeah. And what can we do? What remedy do we have if we have evidence of wrongdoing by the government? I mean,
Well, we're in this unfortunate time right now where we got a whole bunch of fucking people running around waving the flag, suddenly going, "I love the flag," jabbed up,
Yeah.
fucking.
yeah.
It's patriotic when I do it.
So we have to have a part 3. I mean, it's up to you. Like
Yeah, sure, man.
after the Bruce Power thing.
Well,
Perhaps
that's an ongoing saga. There's
is
like
it
doing one in years, and fucking we're waiting for that.
really?
So
So it
yeah,
could take
I
a
have
while.
an appearance. I have an appearance this week, facing sentencing on one matter. But there's some shit that's making this hearing it's going to be complicated as a result. So I don't know whether it's going to get
Yeah,
moved
just
or not.
get in touch with me, and if you want to, if not,
And then I got another trial after that one, and then I got the federal human rights complaints. I'm waiting on Ontario human rights on a complaint I did against an OPP ERT sergeant. That's going to be speaking like, dude, gang stalking's real.
yeah,
I looked at videos of people in the past online where they're filming cars and saying that they're following them and stuff like that, and rolled my eyes. I've been there. I'm living the curse of questioning that right now. All right,
Yeah.
It's real. It's fucking real. I've had people come up and start conversations with me and tell me what my name is, and I've never seen them before in my life. And how do you know my fucking name? And the only reason they do it is to let me know that they know that they're watching me.
yeah,
Make me fucked up and paranoid and act in paranoid, fucked up ways, because that's when you're going to make a mistake.
and you're not being paranoid if they got your name. I mean, that's based on factual.
I'm numb. I'm numb from it. I'm numb from it almost. Man, I've lived in this fog of this fucking over my head now for a while.
Yeah.
Like, and some of the characters that do this to me in nature, I could fucking tear them limb from limb. Like, if they get to do this to me because of the position that they sit in and what they have behind them, but they like if they was just them on their own by themselves and
in the forest,
carte blank fucking to both of us and the last man standing, I'm not too sure that they'd be fucking doing what they're doing to me. But it is what it is. So you just gotta fucking hope that people wake up and notice it and they realize it could happen to them. And when that happens, then they're only going to go through a few more people like me, and then other people are going to stand up and start saying no more.
Just let me know, because we can do it when it's done. If assuming that we're both still alive and
When
it's over. I don't know. I'm really a little edgy over March 21st and how it's, I'm excited, but I'm worried too, because I don't know if it's just a psyop or, you know what I mean? I'm always researching, but I trust my gut more than my heart or my head. I think my gut is the only one that doesn't lie to me, because your heart definitely lies to you, or,
I'm shocked by how many people that participated in the COVID vaccination program.
Me too.
Still buy into this.
Yeah, whatever's next. I know, it's terrible. And Carney's like ready for emergency orders. Like he's saying, oh yeah, because of Trump. So they just want to use it for any reason. Oh, a chicken sneezes. Oh, lockdown. Oh my God.
If Carney stepped into a PM role unelected, if Trudeau stepped out and Carney stepped into a PM role unelected, he could start fucking making decisions to slow down an election. He could start making decisions at the same time he's slowing down that election. And he will. And he will. This guy will come in and he will do fucking decisive fucking things right away, which will be destructive and permanent to us in legislation.
And he was appointed by a conservative. So this is the same bird, left wing and right wing of the same bird. Yeah. Stephen Harper appointed him Bank of Canada.
It's no secret that CSIS is already released. It's no secret that there's more than a handful of traders that span all parties. All parties are facing this. The Conservative Party is pushing hard for disclosure. I believe that they're aware of their internal issues, and if they haven't already addressed them, there's some kind of legal nuance that they have to stitch up before they can act on it in order to do it without repercussions coming back on them. Everybody's so fucking careful in these arenas, it seems, around their titles, right? Like these fucking but here's the thing. Steady flow of staunch, hardcore front bench liberal ministers are falling off the fucking wagon and they're not running again. Jennifer O'Connell coming into politics at 23 and she's still young. I don't think she's over 40 yet. And she's dropping out. No way, dude. No way. I think she's like 35. There is no way that anybody at that age, if they are serving their country and they're a professional politician as she is, that they're going to retire at 35. That just doesn't happen. So she's being forced into a retirement. What's forcing her? Does she need to free herself up to flee somewhere? Does she need to, what are the binding limitations that she would face if she was still in an electoral position, and what freedoms to move around does she have if she's not in it? Does this, because they're facing accountability. That's it. Charlie Angus ain't running again because he's facing accountability. They all know they're caught. It's just a matter of time. That's why they're speaking so bold. That's why this is what cornered things do when they get cornered.
But if you're in the army, you subject to military law, right? Which we aren't. We're not subject to that.
National Defense Act. It's an act. It's under Canadian law. It's an act. The consent is by participating in it when you sign in.
Right.
Sign in, and then you're under unlimited liability. Unlimited liability. There's no work refusals. Unless it's an unlawful command. And if you stand on that, you'll be guilty until you prove yourself innocent. It could take half a decade, and that'd be quick. Yeah.
Well, I thank you for coming on.
Yeah, brother, and everybody watching. Yeah.
I always enjoy your time. I love the conversations we get into because I don't think there's anything we won't get into.
I appreciate it too because there's just there's not a lot of people that I get to have these isolated opportunities to get it out there.
You deserve it. I absolutely do. I think it's so important because you're telling people things they don't know and they've never heard before. And the value of that in these days right now, I think is so important. And that's I can see us doing very many shows like going to be up there competing with Kirk Reese.
Yeah, for sure. You should get us both on at the same time again so we can have a reunion and a B team reunion. I miss
I think that'd be good. Yeah, I would like that.
You see, his situation is notice how all this northern sovereignty is now an issue. Now they're talking about rebuilding up there. Now they're talking about doing all this. Are you starting to see why they suppressed this story when he was bringing it out? It's because there's no way that they would get the public to buy into to opening the funds and all that with the scrutiny on the fog of the scrutiny of what he's about to show of what they've done with mismanagement up there.
Exactly.
This is it. That really needs to be dialed in on for sure, man. I've kept on saying, if Kirk Reese could go down to the border, try to run it with a child, and he's walking in there dumping guns, smoke grenades.
I got guns.
And they give it all back to him. And his child is go home. He doesn't even
get away from me. I know that was quite telling, eh?
And I get grabbed and wrapped up into a package by police for the way I think.
It's really telling what they did with Kirk. They did not want to touch that.
No, they didn't want disclosure. They didn't want disclosure. Yeah. So there you go.
But I think he has the potential to the card house fall down with him. It really could because it goes all the way through, straight to the top.
Kirk's got better. When in the time that I spoke to him, I really was impressed with the first time I heard him try to tell his story. It was very like chaotic in the way it was expressed. The
Yeah.
likes, and other than and his own little language, dictional ticks, convoluted the story, so it was hard to follow.
Yeah.
And a couple times after that, he's written it down in timelines and posted it, and
Yep.
the
Yep.
story's condensed and become more. It's starting to come through the fog, and it's
Yep.
more visible now. Getting the common average public to see the core points of what is being presented is the hard part, because of all of the different moving parts that make one part of the story relevant. There might be like 5 or 6 things that have to be satiated in order to make this claim relevant. And so when you go to explaining each one of those and justifying each one of those, you'll lose an audience.
All right, let's do one with Kirk. The
Sure.
next one. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Thank you everyone at home for watching.
Yeah.
My guest Selgovae Pecht, and on the Truth Table, episode what was it, 54. I look forward to seeing you again, brother.
Yeah, man.
And I look forward to seeing you all. Oh, I'm going to be on the Missing Link on Wednesday. So I'll be a guest there. So that'll be my first time on someone else's podcast.
Right on.
And so I wish everyone a good end of their weekend. And God bless. Thank you.